Hello, this is a video for SOAN 6441. This is week 1. Here in this video, I'm going to provide an introduction to the project. So if we can start by going to Moodle to get the document, week 1, handouts, project description handout. So here's the project description handout. Make it bigger. So this is a very quick description of the project topic. It's important, as I said earlier in the first video, that you understand that this project description, even though it might appear to be clear, you will soon realize that there are many things that are not said in this description. This is actually on intent, as to make sure that this project is as real life as possible. What's happening in real life is that your client might think they are very clear about what they want. Inevitably, as you are developing a solution to their needs, you will soon uncover details that they did not bother to tell you, or that they did not even think themselves about. So yes, this is going to be apparently very clear, but as you will read it and discuss with your teammates, you will soon realize that there are many things which are not said. It is your duty, it is your first homework to actually read this and then note some questions. A large part of the discussions that are going to happen in the live lecture sessions are going to be about discussing the questions or the answers to the questions that you may have. So yes, please read this and then try to figure out or imagine how you would implement it, which will make you uncover some of the questions that needs to be answered. Take note of these questions, come to the lecture time, and then we're going to discuss the answer to these questions. Okay. So let's backtrack a bit and talk about the deadlines. So there is going to be 3 different deliveries for this project. So at each delivery, you are delivering a piece of software that works, that actually implements a subset of the requirements. Some weeks before each of these deadlines, you're going to receive a very precise list of things I want you to, or that you need to implement for each of the deliveries. Okay. I'm not going to give you the first list until a few weeks into the semester. I want to make sure that people don't rush and then do much of the implementation before we I actually tell you what are the tools that I want you to use as part of the development of the project. Okay, so you first should start by making sure you form a team with people that you are comfortable with, that you have the same way of thinking and so on. So yes, please discuss with people. It's always, again, giving you the opportunity to form teams with the people of your choice. Please take this opportunity and really discuss with people and associate yourself with people that have some things in common, hopefully. So the deliveries are going to be in February 25th, then March 25th, and then April 15th. So you see that, yes, the delivery is going to be more after the mid semester. Okay. So the first part of it is for you to get together, set the team in motion, absorb the functioning of the tools that we want you to use. Then it's gonna start later. Okay, don't expect it's gonna start very, very soon. So for the evaluation, delivery 1 is 15%, delivery 2 is 15%, and the final delivery is 20%. for a total of 50% of your total mark. So this is a team assignment. So you need to have a team of 5. If you go to the Moodle page, you will see the team self-selection at the top of the page. You go there, you will see the list of teams. Some of the teams are already there. You even have, at this point, I'm very happy to see that there's already some complete teams. Please go there, and if you don't have a team, try to see some incomplete teams, and then click on the names there, and then you're able to send them a message, a Moodle message, initiate some conversation with them, and then try to discuss and associate with yourself with the team that you feel that is most compatible with your own vibe somehow. Okay. So forming teams, the teams have to be formed by January 22nd. If you don't have a team by January 22nd, I will assign teams so that all the teams will be finalized by the end of January 22nd. Okay. So don't worry too much if you don't have a team. I will find you a team, but I strongly suggest that you form a team of your own choice. Okay. My experience is that the teams that are formed out of people that don't know each other are somehow less likely to have a good experience. So yes, take some time to reach out and discuss with people. Even though you might feel, oh, I don't know anyone. Well, you will have to know some people by having to work with them. It might as well it would be better for you if there'd be people that you chose rather than people that were randomly chosen for you to work with. Okay, so that's for the delivery. The deliveries are going to be done to a marker. The markers are the same as the lab instructors. Okay. The teams that you form don't have to be people that are in the same lab section. They can be anywhere. It can be anyone that is registered to the course. The lab instructors happen to be the markers. It's not necessarily the case that you will be marked by the same person that happens to be your lab instructor. About a week before the due date, each of the 3 due dates, I will post online a Google sheet, which is essentially going to be some kind of schedule for the demonstrations. And then your team will have to choose the time slot that you want to, where you want to do your demonstration. So this is how the scheduling is going to be done. The presentations are going to be done on Zoom to the marker. The marker will essentially be there, will have a marking sheet, which is going to be the same set of requirements that I've given you prior to the demonstration. When I give you the handout for each of the deliveries, many weeks before each of the, let's say 2 weeks before the deadline, you will have a list of features. The marker is going to have a marking scheme that is going to use exactly the same list of features. And basically it's going to give you marks for each of the things that were listed in your handout for the assignment. This I already mentioned. Okay, so let's jump into the topic itself or the problem statement. So this is going to be about the implementation of a Risk-like computer game. So Risk is a board, or it was initially a board game, essentially a world domination game. So the idea of this game is that you have a map of the world. It doesn't have to be the world, as we will see, but the original Risk map was a map of the world with countries and on the map. And then the idea was that you would have army units that you would put on your own countries as a player. And then you would be able to somehow attack neighboring countries, eventually conquer neighboring countries. And then the objective of the game is actually to conquer all the countries in the map. Okay, that's fairly simple concept. However, there's a lot of details involved when you actually look into all the details of the game. So there are several variants of this game. The variant that I'm going to ask you to somehow follow is the Warzone game. So if you go to this web link here, you will see an online game. It's actually a free game that you can play. I invite you strongly to go there and actually play a few games until completion, so as to have a good feeling of what this game is. Okay. Again, you might think you have a good idea what this game is. Likely it is that there will be some aspects of it that you didn't think of. By playing the game, it's giving you a much better feel as to exactly what you have to do. However, the point is that one of the points is that even if you use the game, it's not telling you exactly what are the rules that are implemented as you actually use the game. Okay. So of course, if you want to implement such a game, you have to know all the possible details of what are the rules. That's another thing that you're going to have to figure out. But a good way to start is actually go there and actually play a few games to completion. So yes, this is the game Risk, but it's also Warzone is a quite special variation of the game Risk. Okay, so it's not about implementing the board game Risk, it's about implementing the rules of the Warzone game. If you go to the Warzone website, you will also see that there is a wiki describing the rules of the Warzone game, which you can use to actually answer many of your questions. You will also see that in this wiki, that it's again apparently is being very clear as to what are the rules. However, there are many things that are not said. Okay, so yes, play this game, read this project description here, go to the wiki. You will find out much information. But eventually, as you dig in further and try to ask yourself how I will implement this game, there will be inevitably some questions that you need to find the answer to, make note of them, and then come to the lecture and we'll have lengthy discussions as to what are the rules of the game and discussions as to how to implement the different aspects of the game. One of the things that is going to happen is that I'm going to somehow give you some restrictions as to how to implement the game. Okay. It's important to understand also that in the past, I've given a project that was along apparently exactly the same project as this one. I'm going to make sure that you cannot actually take the code of somebody else that did a project in the past and basically somehow pretend that this is your code. Okay. So it's worthless to actually try to find somebody else that did this project and then plagiarize this project. You might think this is going to save you some time. My job here is to make sure that you won't go anywhere if you're trying to do that. Okay. There's going to be some additional restrictions, different rules. So has to make sure that you cannot plagiarize a past project. Okay. So it's going to be roughly the same kind of game, but it's not going to be the same. The rules are going to be different. The restrictions I'm giving are going to be so different that it's not going to be the same project somehow. Okay. So of course, here This is a game that is centered on the notion of a map. So it is, if you go to the Warzone game itself, it has only one map, I believe. I think on the Warzone game online, you can only play on one map. However, I'm gonna ask you to implement a variant of this game in which you can play on any kind of map that is actually some kind of directed graph, okay? Connected directed graph. So the map, the game map is a connected graph where each node represents a territory owned by one of the players. So essentially you can see, let's stop the share here and give you an example. So example, you might have territory A, territory B, that is owned by the player orange, and then you might have territory C, and then territory D and E that is owned by this other player. You might say this is C is, or D is adjacent to C. Well, let's use white here. D is adjacent to C. You might have this like this. It's like this. Well, let's keep it like this. Or let's make it more interesting and like this. So you see that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 territories. This is essentially a connected graph, okay? And then you have player orange, which has ownership of the territory A and B, and you have player purple, which has ownership of the territories E, C, and D. Now, the connections, the connectivities or edges between these nodes of the graph are representing adjacency of the territories. For example, C is adjacent to A, and then A is adjacent to C. So you see that these are, this is actually a directed graph. So you can have a C that is adjacent to A, while A is also adjacent to C, but you can also have a one-way relationship where, for example, D is adjacent to C, but C is not adjacent to D. So for example, that in terms of gameplay, that means for C to be able to move into D, or armies from C are being able to move into D, D must be adjacent to C. So if there would be armies here, they'd be able to move here. But if there'd be armies here, they would not be able to move here, okay? So being able to move armies, one of the things, of course, you want to do is to, for example, attack. So for example, E can attack A and E can attack B. B can attack E, A can attack E. C can attack A, but C cannot attack B. And D cannot attack anywhere, for example, okay? So it is a connected graph. It's also a directed graph. Okay. So the edges between the nodes represent adjacency between territories. The map is divided in subgraphs that represent continents. So you can have continents. For example, you might say, let me use yellow here to say, maybe this is a continent, and then this is another continent, okay? So you see that the subgraph ACD is here a continent that is a subgraph of this connected graph, and E and B is a subgraph that represents another continent, okay? Essentially, the continents are connected subgraphs of the graph that represents the entire map. Every territory belongs to one and only one continent. So you could not have, for example, A that belongs to two different continents. So you see here that I'm briskly going over some details. Some of these details actually are very important. It may seem that I appear to say everything, but once you will go into the details, you will realize that some of the details are not mentioned. Okay, it's up to you to figure out what are these details that I did not mention and come up with some questions. You can answer these, have answers to these questions by come to the lectures. So in which case we have some discussions, which are public discussions with all the students attending the lecture will hear my answers. That's probably the most, I would say, profitable to the whole class for you to come in the lecture, and then we have a collective discussion about these things, okay, or about your questions. You can also send me an email. I will answer emails in a reasonable amount of time. You can also go to the Discord channel, in which case you may post some questions on the Discord channel. Some of your fellow students might risk an answer to the questions. I will be there to give my own view on each of these answers that some of the students might have given you. If nobody answers, I will give you the answer on the Discord channel. Okay. So let's go back to the description here. Each continent is given a control value that determines the number of armies per turn that is given to a player that controls all of it. So if you control all the territories that are part of one continent, you are given every turn a certain number of armies. So there's advantage in controlling an entire continent, so as to give you an edge every turn. Every turn, the turn starts by you receiving a certain number of armies. If you control an entire continent, you receive more armies, thus, of course, giving you an edge in the gameplay by having more armies. During gameplay, every territory belongs to one and only one player and contains one or more armies that belong to the player owning the territory. In the implementation, it will be expected that the game can run on any connected graph that is stored in a text file. So your game will start by allowing the computer user to actually choose what map to actually play on. Okay, so if you go to the Warzone game, you always play on the same map, as far as I recall. Or if you play the Risk game, the board game, it's always on the same map. Your game should be able to play on any graph that was stored in a file, basically a text file of a certain format. What is this format? Format is the domination game maps. So if you go there, you will see a website that has plenty of different files that represents different maps. And if you click on each of these links, you will receive a zip file. In this zip file, you will have a .map file that is a text file that represents the map. Your game should be able to read these .map files, text files, and load them, and then play the game on this particular map. Okay. Now, what about the game? This is my description of what is a map. Okay. Again, might seem to you that this is clear. It is somehow clear, but it's not complete. Okay. It's up to you to figure out where the incompleteness is to uncover some of the details that are necessary to know in order to implement the game. So here's the description of the game. So first of all, when you start, it should allow the user to select the map and select how many players they want to use to play this game. Then when the user has selected this, then the game starts by loading the map, creating the players, and then allocating the existing territories on the map to the players that are playing the game. It's called the startup phase. That's where you load the map, create the players, and then give the players to, give the territories to the players, give a bunch of armies to the players, and then the players place their armies on their own countries. Then only after this is done, after the startup phase is done, then the real game starts. So there's a startup phase, which is the pre-phase that happens before the game starts. Okay. Then once this is done, the real game is starting, in which case, the way the Warzone game works is using orders. Okay. This is not a concept that you have in the original Risk game. So the idea of the Warzone game is every player will be able to give what is called orders. Now, what are different kinds of orders? You have deployment orders, advanced orders, and then special orders that are can be created by using cards. Okay. So as you play, you may receive cards. The cards help you to create special kind of orders that give you an edge in the game. You can still play the game even if you don't have cards, in which case you'd be able to only issue deployment and advance orders. Now, what is deploy? Deploy is basically that you, because at the beginning of your turn, you receive a certain number of armies or army units, and then you decide where you will put in some of your territories, where you will put these armies, where you will deploy these armies. That's how you create a deployment order, by taking some of your armies that you get in this turn and then putting them on one of your territories. So that's a deploy order. It's important to understand that when you create orders, they don't take effect now. Okay, so you see that there's issuing orders and then there's executing orders. First, the players issue the orders, which just means they are saying, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to put N armies on this territory Y, X armies on this other territory, and then I want to move armies over into this enemy territory to create an attack. So they basically all say what they are going to do in this turn. When you issue the orders, they don't take effect, okay? Just basically something you declare what you wish to do during your turn, okay? You can imagine this is like a general saying to the army commander, go there and tomorrow you're gonna attack there, okay? It's basically an order that is given, there's no immediate effect, okay? So that's what is issuing an order. This is something that's not part of the Risk game, for example. This is how the Warzone game works. If you want to have a better feel of what is issuing orders and executing the orders, play the game online. Now, what are the different kind of orders? So there's a deploy, as I mentioned before, and then there's advance. Advance is essentially, let's say you have, let's say you're the orange player and you have, let's say 10 armies here. Then advance is essentially you're going to take 5 of your 10 armies and you're going to move them here. So you select a certain number of armies you have on one of your territories and you move them, or you advance them to another adjacent territory, okay? If you move them to what is one of your territories, and it will just simply move the armies from one of your territory to another of your territory. If you move armies into another territory that is not yours, then this is going to create a battle. Okay. Eventually, as there is a battle, you can actually conquer another territory, which is one of the principal objectives of the game. So that's by doing advance orders to an enemy territory that you eventually win the game. Okay, then so that's the two kinds of orders you can play or issue if you don't have cards. If you have cards, then you can issue these other orders. Okay. It's important to understand that in the Warzone games, there are more cards than that. I basically selected only a subset of the cards in the, that there is in the Warzone game. So other orders, there's bomb. So you can play the card bomb that allows you to actually target one of the enemy territories that are adjacent to yours. The effect of the bomb as it will be executed will be that this territory will now lose half of their army units. Okay. Then you have blockade. Now, blockade, what it does is you target one of your territories, and the effect of it is that it will double the number of armies on this territory, but it will concede this territory to a neutral player. So essentially, this will create some kind of place where on the map where there's a lot of armies, will become some kind of border that will protect your countries that are beyond this mass of armies that you've just created. But you will not have control over these armies anymore. They will be owned by the neutral player. Then you have the airlift. Airlift is essentially some kind of advance, but you can actually move to a territory that is not adjacent to one of your territories. Okay. Then you have negotiate order. Negotiate is essentially when this order is executed, if you, in this case, you target another player. If you target this other player with a negotiate order, then until the end of the turn, you or this other player cannot attack each other. Okay. Even if you want to advance armies to one of their territories, this order is not going to be executed. I'm not going to go into all the details here. So I'm going to let you read some of the details that are written here. I've said many of those, but I'm not going to repeat all of this here. I'm going to leave that to you as an exercise or homework to read everything. So you basically issue orders. All the players in round robin fashion will, for example, player 1 will issue one order, player 2 issues another, player 3 issues an order, then player 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, until, and this goes round and round until all the players have decided that they don't want to issue any orders anymore, in which case the game engine will execute all of the orders. Okay. For the attack, this is kind of an important aspect of the game. For the attack, so when you issue a advance order, if the target country is the source and the target country are belonging to two different players, then basically the source is attacking the target. Okay. How is the attack computed, or how is the result of the battle computed? The thing is that for each attacking army unit, involved, there is 60% chances of killing one defending army. And at the same time, each defending army will have 70% chances of killing a defending army. I'm going to give you an example here. So let's say there is 10 here, and there is, I don't know, 5 here, okay? So then this player here, the orange player, says, I want to do a advance order and take 5 armies from A and then move them to C. And then the C will eventually be attacked, and it has 5 armies to defend. Okay. So what's going to happen here is there's going to be a battle between 5 armies that attack and 5 armies that defend. So of course you see here that when you declare this this order, you can actually choose a number that is not necessarily the total number of armies that there is here. For example, here, the attacker decided to attack with 5, whereas the defender is allowed to defend, or will always defend, with all the armies. Okay. In this case, it's 5 attacking 5. Now here, what you do is you can imagine that there's 5 armies that are attacking 5 other armies. Every of these armies here have 60% chances of destroying one of the armies. So this one has 60% of destroying one. This one has 60% of destroying one, and so on and so forth. Then you compute for each of these armies that are attacking, how many armies collectively are they destroying? At the same time, each of these here have 70. So that's 60% going this way. And this one, these ones have 70% of being able to destroy one of these armies here. Okay. So this one has 70% of destroying one army here. This one 70, this one 70, this one 70, and so on and so forth. This is happening at the same time. So even if this one was destroyed by this one here, it still actually can defend and be able to destroy one on this side also. Okay. So you see that the defender actually has a slight advantage in any battle. Okay. That's how you compute the result of a battle. Okay. I'm going to let you read the rest of the description. So finally, the objective of the game is to control all the map. Now, this is 2 sentences describing what happens when the game proceeds up to the conclusion of the game. Any player that does not control at least one territory is removed from the game. So for example, if purple here is attacking orange until it actually conquers A and conquers B, then orange would not control any territory anymore. So orange is essentially removed from the game. Okay. And the game ends at any time one of the players owns all the territories in the map. So you see that in order to win the game, you must do some advance orders, which result in battles, which themselves result in conquering some armies, conquering some territories. You basically win the game by conquering all the territories on the map. So that's it about this description of the project for this semester. So you need to your first duty here is to form a team. Teams will have to be formed by January 22nd. Please communicate with other students and form teams with people that you feel that you have a good vibe with. Use the, I'm gonna go here just to make sure that everybody is aware of how to do it. So you have to use the team self-selection here. So you go here and then you see some of the teams have already been done. So you need to form teams of exactly 5. Why there is 6 here? Because I might myself decide to form a few teams of 6 in the end. You are not allowed to create a team of 6. Only me is allowed to create a team of 6. So your goal is to create teams of 5. Okay. So you see, I already put complete on the teams that are teams of 5. So if you're an individual that are looking for a team, for example, here there are 2 teams that are teams of 4. You cannot, as a team, say, "Oh, we are a team of 4. We want to stay 4." Not allowed. Only me will decide if you're allowed to have a team of 4, okay, depending on what's going to happen on January 22nd. It's more likely that there's going to be all teams of 5 and then, for example, 2 teams of 6. Okay, I'm more likely to create a few teams of 6 than allowing teams of 4. Okay, so first of your duty is forming a team, and other of your duty before the before the lecture time is that you read the project description and then come up with some questions to ask me for us to discuss during the lecture time about the project. Okay. Any other question you can ask, but I'm going to be expecting that people would have some questions. Every lecture time, live lecture time, there's going to come a time during the lecture time I'm going to be like, okay, let me hear some of your questions for the project. If I hear crickets, nobody has questions. To me, what that means is that people did not do their homework. It's impossible you don't have questions. It's impossible that you have all the information that is necessary to have in order to implement this project. If there's no question, it's because you don't know what are the questions. You did not do your homework. So yes, another duty is read the project description, come up with some questions, then we'll have a collective discussion about each of these questions, and everybody will get more understanding about what there is to do. That's how we're gonna roll for the project. So that's it for this video. So see you later.